order. It's July 17th, 6 p.m., Oconee County Council. As usual, we will begin with public comment session. First on our list today is Ms. Vicki Tao. And when you come up to the microphone, would you please state your name for the record?
My name is Vicki Tao, and I'm a resident of Salem. And I'm here to speak on behalf of running the water line from Park Avenue to the Jocassee Brewery on Highway 11. We have visited the brewery. It's very, very nice. They have sodas and teas and coffees. And the great thing is we have visitors from everywhere. When we've been there, me and my husband, we have met people that were camping on Kiowee. We have met people that were on Jocassee. We met people that were just coming from North Carolina to Georgia, and they happened to see the brewery, and they pulled over and they stopped and visited with us. They, the main thing they need is we need water to where they can have a kitchen. And they need a kitchen so that, like we went there, we wanted to have a meal, but they don't have that right now. There's part of a group that is trying to grow Salem, and we need your help in bringing some economic growth to our area. We have reached out to some businesses, and we're trying to get people to come. Highway 11 is a portal that people that travel there. And even our little town is small, but we have the traffic and the people. We just need your help, and that's all I'm asking. Please help us to be able to grow our little town. And the brewery, that is a start. And it's a very nice restaurant. If you've not been there, you need to visit it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jean Jennings?
Good evening. Good evening, Council. I'm Jean Jennings. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the weather, also alcohol sales. And have you noticed in recent years how many disasters we've had? Tornadoes, hurricanes, storms, flooding, global warming, and so forth. Don't you think God is telling us something? That God is in control. Who is in control? God. You pick up a local paper, some of its articles are about how many breweries, wineries we have in our county, in our state, in our United States of America, and all over the world. You go to the grocery store. You see a woman with several children. Her pushing a shopping cart filled with beer, wine, and other alcoholic beverages. They selling the alcoholic beverages on Sunday. People used to try to hide their alcohol when buying it. That's no longer the case. Now they don't care who sees them with it. The leaders call this progress. I don't think so. On Sunday morning, on your way to church, you see people on the lake, not thinking about God, just thinking about drinking and what it is to have a good time. People that drink alcohol will tell you it's good for their health. Juice, such as apple, grape, and other juices are good for your health. Any alcohol, whether it's beer, wine, liquor, or whatever, will break your body down. Ask any of these people that are alcoholics that close the bars down each night. They didn't think they would get addicted to alcohol either. About the weather conditions I mentioned earlier, I would like for you to read Psalms 147, 148, and 149. It tells how God can and does control the weather. It also tells how God loves Israel and the Israelis. According to the Bible, they are God's chosen people. It's time people get serious with God. After all, God is in full control. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barnett.
I'm Jerry Barnett. I'm one of the owners of the rural landmass of this county. And some of you seem to think you can threaten us and intimidate us into giving up our property rights. The guy that just gonna take the District 1 seat, apparently, says zoning is a tool. It is. It is a tool to rob us of our property rights. It is a tool to rob our property of its value and its livability. All of this is straight out of Marx's manifesto. If you don't believe me, read it. The private sector should not own land, right? Or anything else for that matter. It's to turn citizens into subjects. Now, the people, the three of you, or whoever had a part in purging the bloated payroll here at Pine Street, I thank you. Because we had some people, the old term we used in construction, when the job was winding down, we had too many people. What are you doing? Oh, we're just riding the payroll. You had a bunch of people riding the payroll. We know who they were. Maybe it's not finished yet. But when some people lose their respect for the people that pay their salaries, that sacrifice to pay the taxes, homeowners being harassed by building codes, it's time for somebody to go. And when the one in charge refuses to take direction from this council, it's time for that person to go. Now, I could talk on and on and on. I'm just full of it. And this, what's going on right now, I have never seen or heard tell of the like of venom here in this county, what's going on right now in the news media. And the fact that the gentleman that's going to take the District 1 seat participates in this tells me everything I need to know about him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boggs?
My name is Paul Boggs, and I'm here talking about 641 Lands End Road. Me and some of my neighbors were here in June the 5th, I believe it was, and so I was going to go over a few things that that happened since then, not in great detail. While we were here on the 5th, it was said in the meeting that the codes and ordinance were up to date, and there was nothing that could be done about the situation of the compound or what have you over at 641. So I was very concerned about that, and most of the people I spoke to said, how can that be legal? Can those kind of things happen in this county? Some of the people that live around there, and my wife included, called the county to ask some questions and couldn't really get a good heads up on what it was. I'm not a codes guy or anything like that. I'm not a builder. So what I did was I decided I'd come up here to the county, and I spent a couple of days in the month coming up here trying to figure out what I'd have to do at my house, which is across the street, to do the same thing. So I would see what kind of rules or regulations or laws or whatever I needed to do to do that. And I was told when I came up here to the county that I could do it, and I was told I couldn't do it, and I was told I shouldn't do it. All those things, which I would agree with. And by the way, y'all have some great people to work here. And they were really on top of it, except for I kept getting pushed off to the codes guy to say, hey, you need you need to go and talk to the codes guy and all that stuff. And I came up here and I waited, and he was busy, of course, and I know that I was just a hindrance. So I waited, and I eventually got a call back from him. We spoke for a little while, and we set up an appointment for me to come up here. Well, I was sick that day, and I called and rescheduled. And the day that I rescheduled to come back up here, he couldn't meet with me, and I spoke with the zoning guy up here, Adam, and we spoke, a nice guy, and he pretty much told me he was the zones enforcement guy, and he was going through the different things, and y'all were in the process of hiring a full-time zoning guy, which is great. I'm all about it. But you know, at the end of it, I really didn't have any more answers than when I started. And what I'm trying to say is that if Mr. Land that owns the place had wanted to do the right thing, I don't know if he did or didn't, he couldn't have got the information to do it unless he was able to figure out something better than I could have done. And I don't work, I'm retired. So I have plenty of time to be up here, and I was trying to ask the right questions, trying to be respectful, to get that stuff. And so I'm coming to bring this information to the county council, and hopefully that you guys can shed some light and help us out, and because we just want to do a good job and live in peace in this area. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jason Stevens? Same topic.
Yes, I'm Jason Stevens. I'm going to be talking to you about the same topic, same property. About 6 weeks ago, we were here just to express some grievances and share our concerns, most of which are true security concerns to our neighborhood. So I just wanted to kind of give an update on what's transpired in the last 6 weeks. On the day of the meeting, there was actually a drug raid that took place on the property that landed 3 individuals in jail. Those individuals stayed in jail for a little while. They all got out at different times, but we know at least one of which has returned to the property, and we believe the other 2 were there as well. And since that time, there have been police reports and calls involving at least one of those individuals since the time that they got out of jail. So in the last 6 weeks, there have been 3 instances of officers responding to issues where there were charges filed for possession, 3 of which, as I said, happened on that day. There's been a disturbance call, a domestic disturbance call, and then there was a call from a mother who was trying to get in touch with her son, which happened to be one of the individuals that was arrested on the 5th. She was looking for him because he had just gotten out of jail and was sharing some messages on Facebook that he was looking for drugs already. And again, these are people that we believe are living at this property again. So in the last 6 weeks, we really haven't seen any change, unfortunately. And we left the meeting feeling pretty optimistic that something could be done to help us out. I know these things do take time, but I just wanted to come and give an update and be a presence here. So this place continues to grow. We've seen one other RV in the area that was headed that direction. Fortunately, it broke down before it got there, but it was headed that direction. We have, as I said, my wife and I live right beside this property, and we're expecting our first child, so this is a major security concern for us. The couple across the street from us has actually decided to put their home on the market. And some of that is related to this issue. And we also have some elderly people in our neighborhood that are widowed and have, understandably so, they have some very big security concerns. So yeah, we're just here to ask for an update on what actions have been taken in the last 6 weeks to help us in this situation and what we can expect in the near future. I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
My name's Eddie Martin, and I'm here to speak on the Highway 11 water extension. I'm one of the founders and co-owners of Jocassee Valley Brewing. We love this area we call home and want nothing more than to see the community thrive. This endeavor we started a few months ago is the product of a dream that started many years prior. Having a passion for home brewing, craft beer, community, and the outdoors, we had a dream to bring this brewery culture to the community. It has quickly become a popular destination for locals, tourists, outdoor enthusiasts, and craft beer lovers. Across the country, small forgotten communities have been revived by the one addition of a local brewery. For instance, 13 Stripes, located in Taylor, South Carolina, opened in an abandoned Taylor's Mill area. Since their opening, several restaurants and other businesses have opened, and several others have plans to. We believe this same thing can happen in the Salem area of northern Oconee County. In the first 2 months of our opening, we have seen a response that has exceeded our expectations. We have met folks from all over the country and the world that visited our area. They're excited to have a gathering spot to visit. Our clientele is extremely diverse, and the consensus is that our establishment has been much needed and a long time coming. We're seeing this become a community gathering spot that families enjoy visiting. This location we found on Highway 11 was perfect for what we envisioned. Our only drawback was the lack of city water availability. We discovered we need city water in order to add a grade A kitchen and thus be able to start brewing on site. We're seeing on a daily basis folks coming in and looking for something they can't find anywhere else, that being a product that is created and brewed by us in Oconee County. Currently, we are contract brewing at another brewery and have at least one of our recipes on tap at all times. Contract brewing is time-consuming and forces us to purchase our own product back through a distributor. From our standpoint, the addition of city water would allow us to brew more of our own styles and give the community a unique local flavor to be proud of. We also believe that the infrastructure upgrades to this area on Highway 11 will attract more businesses to our immediate area. We're proving that there is a market in this area, and we believe other business folks and entrepreneurs will take note also. This water line is a need for us, but most importantly, this is a need for any future economic growth in this area. Well, thank you for your consideration on this.
Ms. Kay Wade?
Hi, my name is Kay Wade. My husband and I have a small business in Jocassee, and I'm here to speak in support of the Highway 11 water line. First of all, I'll say that I realize, having read the agenda and the notes, $210,000 is a lot of money. But the east end of Oconee County has not, as far as I can see, and I promise I have not kept up tightly with county politics, but there's a lot of money that goes into the western side of the county, and I don't see a whole lot, frankly, that comes over to our side. I think that the extension of this water line would be a good thing for attracting new business to some of the existing buildings that have stood empty for at least 6 of the last few years. I cannot tell you how happy I was to see a business come in, and no offense to any realtors, we need them, but to see a cute little building get taken by somebody other than a realtor, a place where we could actually go and sit down and have a cup of coffee or drink a beer, is a great boon to the neighborhood. It is a great boon to the people who visit Jocassee. My husband and I have a business that has seen somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, 3,000 visitors come through with us to see the lake. I don't know if you guys are aware of this little National Geographic article that was posted a few years ago about 50 of the world's last great places, but that seems to have landed our part of the world on people's bucket lists. And they come in, surprisingly, sometimes they come in just to go on a tour with us to see the lake, and they stay in the local bed and breakfast, and they ask us while they're out on the tour, This has been wonderful. This is the most beautiful place. We really, really like this. What else is there to do? And until recently, we said, well, you can go to Walhalla or you can go to Seneca, you can have a meal. But now we can say, hey, you can go up the road and sit down in a really wonderful atmosphere. You can listen to a little music. You can have some good food out of their food truck. And you can just, kick back and enjoy yourself. This is not the kind of establishment, I do want to impress upon you. This is not a place where people are going to go and hang out and get drunk. It costs too much. And I think that was for a very good reason, and I really respect that. Nobody wants to see a bunch of drunks on the highway anywhere. And I do not think that this is the kind of place that's promoting that. I do think that it is an asset to our end of the county. And I do think that if this is allowed to grow and people are encouraged to come and say, hey, try out a Jocassee Valley brew, I do think that it could encourage other small businesses and hopefully, really local businesses to come and to join him in this endeavor and to take over some of those abandoned buildings on Highway 11 and to make that a place where people have something to do when they come to visit this beautiful part of the world. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Any council member comments?
Yes, ma'am. I have two.
Go ahead, Mr. McCall.
All right. It was reported in the newspaper that the water line was just going to benefit Etta because she could sell her property, and that was the sole purpose of the water line. Well, let's talk about if Etta was going to get water to her house. First off, the water line's on the wrong side of the road to cut across. The water line, being a 10-inch, put fire mains there, as all these people have stated. Businesses can open up. We got an abandoned restaurant up there that never could open because they couldn't get water. We got a rock place that wants to put a wash line in. They need water beside the brewery. Now let's talk about Etta's selfish thing. If she wanted to put a water line in to benefit herself for the county, first off, she's got to get an engineering study to do a road bore under Highway 11. Now, because Highway 11 was built by Duke Power as a heavy transport road, not as a scenic highway, we got to have the depth of the road bore. That's to be determined by an engineering firm. All right, so you put the road bore in. I put road bores in. I bored most of Folly Road in Charleston. It's expensive. Okay, so you push the casing in, then you got to put the line in. The line is determined by DHEC what size line you go run under the road, because they ain't gonna let you put a little line in, then come back and put a bigger line and another line and another line. That ain't gonna fly. So then we get to the other side of the road. On the other side of the road, we have utilities. And I believe we got natural gas on that side of the road. So then we got to go down to her house, about 3,000 feet. Ain't going to trench it. You're not going to be able to trench a line just for her house. DHEC's going to say, well, there are other houses on the road. You can't own the line. The town of Salem's got to put the line in. So it has to be a certain size line. Under the new guidelines, the line's got to have fire hydrants on. So now we've gone from a 10 to a 6. Because the 6 is the minimum you can have to put a fire hydrant in. So if Etta was going to, as the newspaper reported, for her selfish means to put the water line in, she'd have to be out of pocket about $300,000. And plus, and then you can't own the water line. The town of Salem has the water line because it's serving more than one house. So that's the story. The line will benefit Highway 11 immensely. The Salem area deserves to grow. They got restaurants up there. They got what other town you know of is the whole darn town's on a septic tank? I mean, that's wrong. And just keep stepping on Salem. The next thing I want to talk about was in the paper. A guy named Mr. Chris Ruin. he put a thing in there that Norm called me up, and I said, I can't talk to you right now, buddy, I gotta go. And I hung up. It's true. What's going on is I got two of these machines called Blanchard grinders. When the Blanchard starts bogging down, you hear that 35 horsepower start slowing down. You got an option. You got to jump there, knock the power feed off, and either manually override the vertical rise or power it up. If you don't, it's going to either bust a stone or sling the parts everywhere. And what I want to know is, I want to know, Mr. Runn, are you a machinist? Do you even know what a Blanchard grinder is? And to just stab at me in the paper like you know everything about a machine shop and say something, and then after you stab at me in the paper, you crawl back under your rock and you can't be called or talked to. This has got to stop. I don't bow to anybody. And for me to be bashed in the paper, and Etta to be bashed because she wants the selfish water line for herself, she ain't got the 300,000, is wrong. It's absolutely wrong, and it's denying the residents of the Salem area, the brewery, the restaurant that's already built, that can't open, and other businesses that want to open, it's denying them the opportunity for that town to grow. Thank you.
Any other council member comments? Gentlemen?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit on the issues, not just on the property spoken of, but several across the county that are very similar to that. Obviously the petty crime and the living conditions that around some of these areas have created a lot of ruckus for you sleeping in your home at night, because it seems like a lot of these people don't sleep during the same hours that we decide to sleep at. I continually hear about people having rights. Well, everybody has rights until your rights infringe upon others. And nobody up here is here to take away anybody's rights, but we also have to remember that our actions of our neighbors affect those neighbors next to us as well. And that's one of the concerns that I have here is are we being good neighbors? And it seems to me the one thing I have stated, and it's not just with this property, it's other properties, is it seems like the rights follow them more than it does the people that try to live properly. And I'm sure if they needed something and they came next door, you'd probably give it to them. That's not the issue here. The issue here is, multi-families living on the single property. And, it's not about how somebody else lives. We're not out here to say that, well, I don't think you should live that way. That's not what this is about. This is about, controlling an area to make it safe for those others around us. And, I think I've spoken with Sheriff Crenshaw in a lot of these areas. I know Mr. Kane is working on a project in his district as well. And I've got several in my district. This is in District 5, Mr. Hart's district. They exist all over there. And the biggest thing is to keep it from happening. Obviously, the goal of a lot of these projects is to, our compounds as they're called now, is to earn money. And I'm not out there to stop somebody from earning a living, but I'm required to do it properly, as everybody in this room is. And when my right to earn a living is infringing on those other people around me, to me, that's where it's got to stop. And so I think with this, we have continually looked at ways to assist, because we don't want people living like this. We really don't. We want affordable housing. That's one thing all 5 of us agree on up here is affordable housing in this county. And that's one of the things that we're looking at is how can somebody that earns a minimum wage or below in some cases, or their own disability, how can they live affordably in this county? And I know there's a lot of research being done on there to keep somebody from wanting to live in conditions such as this, because it's not fair. It's not fair to the kids. I mean, there's kids living in terrible conditions in this county, and those that help out, as many of us do and many of us in this room do, you see it on a day-to-day basis. And so there is things being done, and it's not just this property. I don't want to sit here and point fingers at a single property, because it's not. There's properties, I guarantee there's 15 of them that we've identified that I know of, and I bet there's 30 more. And if we knock one down, it's going to happen again. Again, we're not out to take somebody's property, but at the same time, when those rights infringe on the others around us, that's why all of y'all are sitting in this room right here, because of those wandering people, the wandering animals, the litter that goes into place. That's not how we're supposed to live, and that's not how we're supposed to treat our neighbors. And so there is things that we're doing to work on, but we also want to help those people that live in those conditions to do better in life.
Mr. Martin,
Yes, ma'am.
the last time we had this discussion, I asked you if it was a code issue or a law enforcement issue, and you said it was a combination of both, but you also made mention that you were hoping to hire a code person.
Yes, ma'am. In the past 6 weeks, we were successful at finding an individual from a neighboring county that was their codes enforcement. He will be coming to work with Oconee County as codes enforcement / building codes. He will work with our building codes department, and we hope to have him on board here in the next 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 3 weeks. So we do have someone coming on board here with the county that does have some code enforcement experience and some knowledge. And yes, we have talked with Sheriff Crenshaw ourselves, and we do realize that we won't have a code enforcement that will be under the sheriff's umbrella. He will not be carrying anything like that. He'll just work straight for the county itself. But the sheriff has guaranteed us if we ever need somebody, it will be a priority that he puts somebody with this individual to correct problems like we see here at Land's End or other places that we have recognized. And that's going to be a priority of his when he gets here. Is the first thing is he's going to hit the ground running on some of these situations to see if we can get them rectified.
Thank you. Any other council member comments?
Mr. Martin, you are staying till your item comes up, correct? Thank you, sir.
Anything else? All right, so no further council member comments, then please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root, please.
Yes, ma'am. Please pray with me if you like. Father, thank you for this day. Really creating us appreciative hearts so we don't take our breath for granted. It's really not this day and this opportunity to meet together in this deliberative assembly and do work for this county. This is obviously a lot of issues, a lot of problems. There's solutions out there. And frankly, I know that the problems that we face and the issues we face are big for one of us or even as a collective, so we need your wisdom. So I ask for that. I ask for your guidance over this meeting, as we go from this meeting to carry out council's directives, that you give us inspiration, direction. It's really help us to have hearts that are humble, that are wanting to do justice, to love kindness and mercy, and to treat our neighbor as we would be treated.
Amen. Thank you. We have joining us today some handsome young men in uniform. Would you like to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. We need to approve two sets of minutes this evening. The first is from June 5th, our regular minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, discussion, changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
The second is our June 19th regular minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Martin, your report, please.
All righty, our administrative report and agenda summary for tonight is as follows. We have the public hearing and third readings on ordinance 2018-13, which is ordinance amending chapter 32 of the codes of ordinance in regards to sign control. Ordinance 2018-15, which is ordinance amending chapter 38 of the code ordinance by adding a section to identify the zoning matrix. Ordinance 2018-16 and 2018-17, which are ordinance amending chapter 28 and 12 of the code of ordinance in regards to the solid waste management and litter control. We have second readings for the following ordinances. Ordinance 2018-18, ordinance 2018-19, ordinance 2018-22, ordinance amending chapter 38 of the code of ordinance in regard to the hearing and actions of the Board of Zonings and Appeals, and general provisions related to the Lake Residence District setbacks. Ordinance 2018-20 and 2018-21 are ordinance amending chapter 32 of the code of ordinance in regards for the communication tower ballooning testing, the view shed analyst, and the application. Ordinance 2018-23 is an ordinance that established a fund balance for Oconee County. We have first reading of the ordinance 2018-25, which is an ordinance authorized the execution of amended and restated lease agreement between Oconee County and Christ Central Ministries. Ordinance 2018-26, which is an ordinance amending chapter 32 of the code of ordinance by adding clarifying language relating to the minimum lot size. Resolutions, we have the first and final reading of resolution 2018-10, which authorizes the purchase of real property located in the county for the use of the Oconee Roads and Bridges Department. In action items tonight, we have the first one, the approval of the purchase of a case excavator in the amount of $588,400.02 for the rock quarry. Second action item is the approval of the award of $58,818 to Smith Garner for engineering services and groundwater monitoring and reports. The final action item is to finalize the grant documentation to complete the property purchase of approximately 7 acres adjacent to the airport. And if we remember, the county approved this back in May. We have a couple of committee reports for Ms. Kamick. As a matter of concern of the Budget, Finance, and Administrative Committee, on May, we don't have those, I've been told. Sorry about that, my mistake. We have 3 executive session matters tonight. All of them are related to receiving legal advice and updates. And that concludes my report and my agenda.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to amend the agenda to add an executive session item regarding administrator resumes received and the administrator job posting timeline.
Second.
Any discussion? We're adding this executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
That would be number 4.
Yes, sir, be number 4.
I also have a question regarding ordinance 2018-24, which is the Rosa Clark matter. Should we not put that off till after the executive session, which will be receiving legal advice regarding the Rosa Clark Clinic?
We certainly can make that motion and need to pass by a supermajority, and it's fine to move that if you see fit. The reason that was on for executive session is because when I drafted that lease and sent it to the Rosa Clark attorney and the CEO, we thought they may have some revisions to it. They didn't.
They did, okay.
So I don't know that we even need that as an executive session item, but I'm glad to discuss that lease or any topics. It's completely up to you.
That's the information we've already received, correct?
That's correct.
Nothing has changed besides what,
So then, should we just strike the executive session on Rosa Clark?
and make a motion to remove number 2, receive legal advice, executive session item, discuss the lease agreement and related issues regarding Rosa Clark Clinic.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay,
One second. Due to the fact that we've amended the agenda, we had 4 and 5 on there, would that technically not be 6? I'm just trying to make sure when we submit that, 4 and 5, I know we removed them, or since we removed this one, would that, I'm just trying to make sure that that goes right. Would that be the one that I amended to add? Would that be 6 since we changed, or would we go back to?
Yeah, for the minutes, I would reflect it, or Ms. Smith would reflect it as 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Now.
Okay, gotcha. So we would be 3. So my amended item would be 3.
Would be number 3, correct.
Okay, I'm just making sure we keep it straight.
okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're going to start with the public hearings for those particular ordinances. Actually, no one has signed up for any of our public hearings. So we'll open ordinance 2018-13 to any comments that anyone wants to make right now. If you wish to give written comments to our clerk, you're welcome to do that at this point in time. So having no comments on 2018-13, we'll close the public hearing on that. 2018-15, regarding adding a section number to identify the zoning matrix. No one has signed up for that public hearing either. Anybody wish to comment on that at this point in time is welcome to do so. Otherwise, if you'd like to hand a written comment to Ms. Smith, you're welcome to do that at this point in time. Okay, so no comments on 2018-15, so we'll close that and move on to 2018-16, which is the solid waste management ordinance. Again, no one has signed up. Anybody willing to comment right now, you're welcome to do so. Or written comments to our clerk. Okay, we'll close 2018-16, 2018-17 regarding litter control. Same thing. Anybody wish to make any comments now is welcome to do so, or hand in written comments instead. Nobody wishes to discuss litter, so we'll move on to the third reading. Third reading of ordinance 2018-13.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, 2018-13 was the sign control. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I noticed we've got 2 industrial parks on 2 lane highways. How are we going to advertise anything on those? Tri-County Tech have a billboard saying classes start October the 18th. With this, they can't do this. And it says, you know, if it's a 4-lane highway, it could. I think that needs to be looked into for these different industries that we hope to draw in here that might have to have a sign to advertise to get to
Madam Chair, I mean, it can be referred back to the planning commission for that issue. You have building mounted signs, which may accomplish that goal, but you're speaking of billboards that are next to the building that are not necessarily affixed to it. That would, you're right, it would have to be addressed differently. You can do it two ways. You can approve this and say, hey, Planning Commission, we'd like you to take a look at this issue, or you could send this back, refer it back to Planning Commission for them to revisit the ordinance and visit Mr. Hart's particular concern.
Well, this is the third reading, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to stop it, but I would like to see it revisited by the Planning Commission to where Tri-County Tech or anybody else in there can have some type of schedule, enroll today, or come by for a job or something that on their billboard to where they can turn people into there for either enrolling or either for looking for jobs.
Mr. Hart, I have to disagree on that. I think if you drive down our highways, you'll see a number of billboards that have sat empty of any advertising for years. And I can think of a number of them. And to me, as we see more and more advertisement going the digital route, it doesn't make sense to me to litter our landscape with further advertising. So just, you know, I hope that we can go ahead and move forward with this third reading of this ordinance and go from there. You know, Tri-County Tech, I'm sure, advertises through many different means, but I don't think it's necessary for a billboard.
Madam Chair. Okay, fine. We pass this ordinance like it is. That means that existing signs, including high school signs, football game tonight, become existing non-conforming. That means when the sign gets in bad enough shape, we tell Walhalla High School to knock it down, get rid of it. Same as with our sign says Oconee Technology Park, existing non-conforming, tear it down. The ordinance can't just be for, it gotta be for everybody. If you're gonna say nobody have signs on a certain highway, then the signs that there become existing non-conforming, and when they're either in foul shape or repair for whatever reason or whatever, then they will be removed. They cannot build them back. Yeah, we get, Mr. Hart is right. We need to think about the bigger picture here and not just, a lot of businesses now, there's a plastic place, they putting up signs everywhere. Help wanted, apply within, right now. There's one right there in 28 in West Union, got a big old sign stuck out in front. Plastics plant down where Pine River Plastic used to be, they had, I thought they having a yard sale, they had so many real estate type signs stuck down the road. Help wanted, everybody's got help wanted signs. We need to look at the whole picture, because we may be hurting ourselves. Thank you.
Are our signs currently non-conforming, if they would be made non-conforming under this ordinance?
No, sir, it doesn't apply to existing billboards, and those are defined in those in place. But also, just to make clear, that this ordinance doesn't change the sign dimensions that were either proscribed or prescribed previously. This just adds some administrative clarity to the ordinance. So the issue that Mr. Hart brings up and that Mr. McCall brings up, retroactively or with a new school or what have you, isn't changed by this. Those were issues that were present before this ordinance. So to the extent, probably the way to do this would be, if you want to, we've had the motion and the second to approve this on third reading. You could add a motion to amend, approve with direction for the Planning Commission to take a look at addressing the issues, commensurate or related to signage on two-lane roads for industrial uses. You could attach that kind of rider to it if you want to do it that way.
Okay. Do you want to do it? Do you want to amend it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do make a motion.
Motion to amend.
I'll make a motion to amend, to send it back to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Got a second?
I'm sorry, just to be clear, so is it a motion it's not to approve then, it's to send it back?
No, to approve as is, but to send it back for discussion of signage on two-lane roads.
For the planning commission to revisit that issue.
revisit
All right.
the signage on two-lane roads. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the
Well-
amendment? I'm sorry? Go ahead.
So what was the difference between what was written in the second and what is written in the third? Why do we get all the way to the third reading and now it's not good enough? Like what changed?
Well, I brought it up the second meeting. If you remember, do you remember the second meeting? I said, I got something here that's bugged me, but I'll just let it go if everybody's wanting to go ahead and do this and get it over with.
Is there a particular property that this affects?
Well,
you-
there's the property down on 59 where we have the industrial park.
But that doesn't affect that.
It will affect that. It's a two-lane highway.
We have signage at the park, correct? I mean, unless we're gonna start getting in the billboard business on our industrial park.
I believe Mr. Hart's referring to new signage that may be in the future, which could be affected by this. Potentially, I mean, who knows what kind of signs could be put
Well,
there.
that's what I'm going by. We have two industrial sites and both of them on the two-lane highways. So if we get businesses in there that need some type of signage out front, what we're doing now is saying, no, you can't do it, it's a two-lane highway.
What is the size restriction that you're speaking of? You're saying they cannot have signs in the front of their businesses. I don't think that that's an accurate depiction of what this code change does.
Good.
Adam Chapman, Planning and Zoning. So right now, at the industrial parks, they can have signs up to 75 square feet, which is 7 by 10 plus change. So they can have signage out front. So if you'd like to, for the Planning Commission to increase that, we can certainly look at that if that's something you like. That is a two-lane road standard, but they can't have all the signs. And anything under 50 square feet doesn't really need a permit. So that was just my point there.
So all the hiring now, all those signs are the same as they've always have been, that they put out there. I see Cryovac puts, there's no permit needed on those because of the size of them.
Like the realtor sign kind of things, those are
Correct.
completely well within the standards. We don't have any temporary sign standards at all. I'll clear that up if you all have any other questions.
Okay, so, you still want them to take a look at larger
Yes, I do.
models?
Yes, I
So
do.
what do you want the planning commission to change?
I want them to look at why there can't be advertisement on a two-lane highway.
There can be though. Under this, what is it, 75 square foot sign can still be placed on a two-lane highway.
You're talking about something similar to two sheets of plywood stuck together.
Depends on the size of plywood, but that's
So you're,
8 by 16.
so you're wanting them to add in larger signs on a two-lane highway?
Yes,
That's
Right, 8 by
that's
8.
the direction that you're trying to give.
right.
What size? Billboards?
Not necessarily a billboard, but you could have say a 20 by 12 or something like that. We wouldn't necessarily, most time a billboard is a 24 by, I think, 14, or 48 by 14.
So just a random sign, not a business sign, is what you're proposing? Somebody that has land on a two-lane highway that wants to put up a 20 by 12 sign, that's what you're wanting to change?
Yes, if they got something there that they can advertise, yes.
Not business related, just renting a space? Because businesses can have sign, right, Mr. Chapman? A business on Highway 11 can have signage?
Yes.
And that sign, what was those dimensions again?
75 square foot.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
under this proposed change, if a business wanted to do a larger sign than that on a two-lane highway, what would be the procedure? A variance. Okay.
Yeah.
So you still want them to consider larger signs?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so the amendment stands. All in favor of the amendment? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so all in favor of the ordinance as amended?
And just to make clear, Madam Chair, if I could,
Mm-hmm.
the ordinance isn't being changed. The ordinance is being approved as stated. It's just with a directive, as an attachment essentially to this process
Okay,
for Planning Commission to take a look at the issue Mr. Hart raised.
okay, then why did we need an amendment?
Well, he made it as an amendment.
Okay, so we don't really need a second vote on this.
You've already done it as an amendment. I mean, it's an attachment to the process, and it's clean enough. And doing it this way, probably the cleanest way, if you want to revisit the whole issue, would be just so this process doesn't come back to you for, this would be the third time the sign ordinance is in front of you within the last year and a half, I think, would be to refer it, just make a motion right now to refer it back to the Planning Commission to address that issue. They could address it and send it back up to you in short order, and then we wouldn't have another 3 readings on a change on the sign ordinance.
Well, that's fine.
That's the cleanest way. I don't know that that's the desire of council, but as opposed to passing it and then coming back for 3 more readings in a month.
No, we don't want that. So we just need a motion to refer it to the Planning Commission for
Correct.
that segment that we discussed.
Correct.
Okay. You want to make that motion?
Make that motion? Yes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion?
I have a question. How many planning commission meetings was this proposed ordinance discussed at?
3 or 4.
So substantial time has already been devoted by the planning commission to this issue. And we've passed it unanimously on 2 readings, and now all of a sudden it's a problem.
It's not a problem in its entirety. It's just one little component, and they can take it up one more time. Okay, so where was I? We have a motion and a second to refer that little segment to the Planning Commission for one last look. Any other discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, can we move on to ordinance 2018-15?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yes, this is regarding the number to identify the zoning matrix. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 2018-16 is the solid waste.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-17 is the litter control.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, second reading, 2018-18, regarding the BZA notification of hearings, et cetera.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-19 is amending Chapter 38, blah, blah, blah.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-20 is the balloon testing.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public knows that the balloon is not part of the tower. It's a balloon to test a view site. I know we had some questions the last meeting of that, so.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-21.
So
This
moved.
is regarding communication tower applications.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-22. This is the lake residential setbacks.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-23. This is regarding establishing the fund balance policy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-24 is the lease agreement with Rosa Clark.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
First reading, 2018-25. First reading? Yeah. 2018-25. That's the lease agreement with Christ Central Ministries.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
2018-26. This is regarding minimum lot sizes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Yes.
Mhm.
What is the minimum?
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
Previously, there was a minimum lot size section that said 0.57 acres. Wasn't necessarily applied because a control-free district doesn't have a minimum lot size, and it was a hangover from a notion regarding septic tank required lot sizes. So that is being removed, and the change is simply that the minimum lot size shall be determined by the underlying zoning district, which varies, but of course, the majority of the county is control-free, are in the control-free district, so it doesn't have a minimum lot size. And then it adds, also you see on attachment B to the ordinance, it's the highlighted provisions, what's being added. It adds some language to plats that would be subdivision plats that would create essentially non-conforming lots that couldn't be built on, lots that don't meet buildability requirements based on setbacks, whatever. Some language on there to give warning or notice to purchasers that until these lots are combined with others, they can't be built on, you may not get a building permit, et cetera. Essentially just warning language for the plats.
Any other questions on this?
This is also,
Go ahead.
this is also applying to the ability when you purchase a lot on the lake to keep from changing the angle of docks that we've had issues before where a person has put a fingernail size to change the angle of his dock where he could not get an approval as the lot that he purchased was. But yet if he changed it, he could go get an approval off of that slip, which has happened on multiple occasions. That was one of the reasons for the change into this ordinance.
That's correct. That's one of the issues. This is a function, our product of the Planning Commission, and we have a lawsuit going on related to that very same issue. And yes, it does address that concern in part and a number of others.
Right.
Simply to add clarity to the ordinance.
Is there also a better way to keep track of when a denial is issued on that? If there is a change in staff, which is what occurred in this one, is there a way that we can keep a better track of, hey, the denial was issued to this lot owner, he sold it to this person? Is there a way to track that? Is that has the ability to be added in the plat just as what that restriction is, or no?
For my part, I could say that, really the Register of Deeds office, this is why we're putting that language in there, and they would have, they've got warning signs, et cetera, not to record non-conforming lots or not approved plats, As far as tracking internally, that probably fall to this side of the office, Mr. Martin, and how that may be accomplished. Perhaps Mr. Chapman, again, may have ideas on how better to track that within community development.
I think there should be a way that we can do that. If it's not already happening, it's something that we can definitely look at and see if it's something we can either improve or start something.
Right.
But I can find out tomorrow or later this week and get back with you on that if there's something already happening.
Well, people pay attention to change, especially when in regards to something like this. So if there's a way for us to keep that up, especially on, with the planning department or something like that, to have a better knowledge of plat number 00577.
I'll check with the Register of Deeds as soon as possible and get back with you.
Thanks, sir. You don't have to get back with me, yes?
I'll take care of it. How's that?
Any other comments on this?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
On this lot size, you can't have a lot and put a house on it with a well and a septic tank unless the lot is so big. You can't, naturally you can't put the well next to the septic tank. DHEC says so. You can't put a lot in, have a well serving 2 houses unless it's a commercial well. Does all this take into account what we're getting into?
Madam Chair, if I may, it does. So there will be things that are trumped, essentially control-free district, no minimum lot size. But if somebody wants to build on a lot, and DHEC, of course, comes in and says, your lot is not large enough to handle a septic tank, or you're going to have to do an engineered septic tank, and your lot's going to need to be so big to accomplish or to accommodate a well. Those are state law issues that are going to be superior to what we have here, and the folks are, of course, going to have to comply with those laws and regulations put forward by the General Assembly and DHEC in order to build on their lots.
Because if you shrink, you say, okay, it's all right to have a little small lot, and people go ahead and buy the thing, think they got a deal, then they go to build it, and they said, hey, can't do nothing with it.
And that's, I believe, the Planning Commission's intention on putting this caveat or warning language down on the bottom. So if you've got a small lot, beware. You may not be able to build upon it. You may not be able to get a building permit or any kind of subsequent permittage or certificates of occupancy necessary to have something that's habitable. So they put that in there for a kind of consumer protection and notice practice.
And you ought to have in the ordinance, if the lot doesn't have water and sewer there provided by a municipality, the lot has to be this big if you're gonna use it. That's what your ordinance ought to say. Not come on and buy a lot and then find out I bought something I couldn't use. We'll have, if you're gonna have lot standards, say, okay, it has to be this many square feet under state law, because you can't put a well in a septic tank in that small of an area. That's what we ought to be telling the people about the state law. And not saying, well, we're gonna let you have little small lots, but buyer beware. I mean, if you're gonna be fair to the public.
I can't speak for the Planning Commission. I know that this was their best go at trying to put the public on notice if they have a lot that's not buildable. There are going to be lots that are differing sizes that are not buildable according to state law, and I don't know that they could accomplish that accounting for all of those contingencies within our ordinance. So they felt the best they could do was remove the lack of clarity with what's in there now, defer to the minimum lot size as designated by the zoning district, and put a caveat in there, which is more than most counties do. If you want to refer it back to the Planning Commission to make a go at changing the language or coming up with language to accomplish your goal, certainly a motion to refer to the Planning Commission would be in order.
Well, it'll only be fair to the prospective buyers. I mean, realtor could say, hey, I got this pretty lot, got a great view and everything. You can't do nothing with it after you bought it. Because the county tied it to zoning districts or whatever to regulate the size. And the size is actually regulated if you don't have water and sewer, is that the size is actually doesn't have anything to do with zoning district, it has to do with what DHEC says. That's state.
Again, those kind of lots are going to have, or should have, as I go through the approval process, this language. lot so-and-so depicted on this plat may not be eligible for connection to a sanitary sewer or septic tank approval, building permits, certificates of occupancy, or any other development permit until it has been combined with another tract in a manner that creates a conforming tract in accordance with the Oconee County Code of Ordinances. So that was the Planning Commission's effort to, I believe, accomplish the goal and address the concern that you're having. It's in attachment B, lot size C. The language is there, what I just read.
And if you're purchasing a lot, it should be under a disclosure as well, because otherwise, as a, you know, in my discussions with some real estate on there, and obviously, yeah, you could be buying from one person to another, but failure to disclose something like that is obviously an issue. But, I mean, I think for what we're doing, what I've seen in the backup material, it seemed like it address those issues. So, and I know the planning department did a lot of thinking on that as well as somebody buying a large piece of area that had 6 to 12 different plots in it. They would have to go and get it resurveyed, if I'm not mistaken. If it had small slivers of land, they could get it resurveyed and change. If they bought, let's say 15 acres and there was 12 plats in there, they could change that to 1 or change that to 4, correct?
Right.
As long as it met, because there's DHEC standards, which is the big thing on the septic.
Right. And that is correct, as I understood what you said, Mr. Davis. And Mr. McCall, I didn't author this language, but I did sit through the Planning Commission meetings where they worked through this, and I know that the language they came up with was a function or a product of problems that the planning department had with issues such as the one you're concerned about, with folks buying lots that they can't build upon when they thought they could, as well as the sliver lots that may tweak angles for dock building. So the planning department came up with the language and worked it through a few meetings with the planning commission, and that's how this arrived on y'all's desk, if that adds any level of comfort.
Any other comments on this? All in favor of 2018-26 as it's written?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First and final reading, Resolution 2018-10, a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain real property located in Oconee County, South Carolina, for use by the Oconee County Roads and Bridges Department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
What was the amount, the purchase price, Mr. Martin?
It'd be $4,000.
Okay. I just wanted that stated for the citizens. And the reason to purchase that?
The reason for purchase, the last significant rain event we had in Avondale, we had a culvert that fell, and we went in and made some real quick repairs, some real nifty work. But the intent is to replace that culvert. But to do so, we'll have to close the road for a period of time to put this culvert in. And if we do, we won't have any way for these 24 to 26 homeowners to get out. So what we want to do is buy some property on the backside, put in an access road. That way we'll have a permanent access.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Any other discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Action items, the case excavator for $588,402.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
What's the 2 cent for? Do I need to ask?
I don't know. I was going to ask that myself, but I thought I'd just pay the 2 cents and move on. But
Okay.
Put my 2 cents.
Better
worth in
than
there.
them rounding up to $1.
I think it's for a certain person, your driver.
I don't think that would be something to hold it up to 2 cents.
No.
I'd like to thank the staff for getting a good deal. I thought the process of this and the way that y'all did it, I think it's definitely, budgeting amount was 750 plus thousand was 0 cent. And coming in under that, and that saved $161,818.98. So I thought that was very good for the citizens. I appreciate y'all's work in that.
Well, it's a program that I don't think we've ever used before. Is that right, Ms. Raleigh? So we'll be using this program from North Carolina Sheriff's Association. So that's how we got 6%. And due to Case trying to help us out and try to get the equipment in the area again, they come up with another significant discount. So it's kind of hard to turn down.
How significant?
I think it was all total discounts, if I'm not mistaken, it's gonna be about 33%. But if I'm not mistaken, the case was gonna be something like, another $230,000.
That's significant.
So it's, and the thing is, it's the size of this machine, there's not a whole lot of them here. I think the closest one's in Texas. So once we get this signed, we'll be able to get this thing moving. Due to the weight of it, it's gonna be a chore to get it here. It's gonna be a pretty big machine.
It's a loader.
Excavator,
Excavator.
about 115,000 pounds, if I'm not mistaken.
What size bucket you got on it?
It's gonna have a 72-inch bucket.
72-inch bucket.
Got another tourist attraction in Oconee County.
Yeah, I've already got one department wanting to borrow it, but I told them I don't think so yet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Engineering services for groundwater sampling and reporting for solid waste.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
An action item to discuss and authorize the interim county administrator to execute the FFA grant agreement.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
And another action item for the interim county administrator to do all things necessary and proper to purchase property located adjacent to the airport.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
The 165, is that in was from last year's budget, or is that was in, because I know we had already voted on that as a council.
The 165 is the total, and 95% of that will be either state and or federal.
Grants.
So what the county's going to end up with is something like 8250, if I'm not mistaken, so that should be in the budget.
Was that in this year's budget or last year's budget?
It was in last year's capital fund project that rolled over for the airport.
Okay. I just trying to make sure that was.
And it's not 0.65 acres, correct?
It's 0.7. Yes. What it's going to do is kind of help with the near future, kind of expanding the airport and try to get rid of that property, the house, the dwelling on it,
Okay.
to give better clearance for the planes landing and taking off. So it's going to help in the near future. Plus, it's been recommended by the FAA to do so.
Are we able to move that house, like sell that house or give that house to be moved?
Those are options that we can look at. I don't know anything about the house.
Okay.
I've seen it from the air. I don't know what the house is like, but that's something we can visit, either selling a home, let somebody else move it, getting rid of it one way or the other.
Okay.
All options will be looked at.
Because that's part of the cost here, right? Is because there was a livable, if somebody was living.
Again, this is before my time. I don't know if it was somebody living there now. They may have been at one time when all this got started last year or the year or so. But I don't know if anybody's living in the dwelling now. I couldn't answer that. I'm
Wayne,
sorry.
you know that?
No, it's basically worthless. Back to get somebody to move it. It's only costed the taxpayers of Oconee County 2.5% of 165,000.
Right.
Because the state is 2.5%, feds 95%, and we're 2.5%. The house is in our glide slope. As we expand the runway, the cone of the glide slope goes out more and more. And it's necessary, and it's necessary for any further airport expansion. And the airport is, you know, whether you want it or not, it's doing a good job. It's almost self-sustaining now, isn't it, Rick?
It is, yes.
And, it's a vital, absolutely a vital part for the county. Because nobody wants, all the businesses now, they don't drive in, they fly in. And it's the coming thing.
So we don't have to deal with tenants, it doesn't sound like, to have them.
No, sir, I don't think,
Okay.
I think that's already been taken care of doing this process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything else on this? All in favor?
Aye.
We have one commission appointment for the BZA for my district, District 1. I'd like to nominate Mr. Cotner.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any unfinished business?
That was quick.
Any new business? Okay. No unfinished or no new? We'll move on to executive session. We need to recess to executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice and discussing a class action litigation regarding payments in lieu of taxes, underpayments by the federal government, number one. Number two, to receive legal advice and discuss economic development matter related to extension of Salem water lines on Highway 11. And number three, to discuss the hiring of the new administrator timeline.
And resumes received.
And resumes received.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's recess.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session. We do have a few things left to finalize.
Yes, ma'am. In thinking back over, these matters were all discussed that, as outlined on the executive session item, but you have as a discussion item the Highway 11 water line, so that actually needs to go last. For our notice, the executive session items, any action taken on those needs to come first.
Okay, so the first one was the PILT. Mhm.
Right, so the motion there would be to authorize the county administrator to enter into or execute the opt-in agreement for the class action lawsuit to recover underpayment of PILT funds.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The second motion that was discussed, again, obviously no action taken, was to alter the county administrator resume review process to enable county council to review all resumes received confidentially.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
The third motion I would need would be to, again, related to the county administrator position, would be to extend the resume receipt date until August 15th and ensure that the position is being advertised with the South Carolina Association of Counties and the Municipal Association of South Carolina.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Mr. Root, are you going to call ACOG?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Right. Then you have the action item. As it stated, appropriate $210,000 from the Economic Development Fund for purposes of contributing by grant or otherwise to the improvement of the town of Salem's water system. The contemplated improvement will include extending a water line along the east side of Highway 11 from Park Avenue southward for approximately 1 mile to allow for improvements and expansion of existing businesses and an impetus for growth along that route. As I understand it, the motion would be to appropriate $210,000 as matching grant funds with the town of Salem being the applicant on the grant for the extension of the water line along Highway 11 from Parkview to 130 to create a loop. Is that accurate?
To finish the loop, yeah.
Finish the loop. So if someone wants to make that motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I do not see a drawing of a loop. I said I am understanding. I do think that the Salem area does need basic services of water. There has not been a meeting with Salem or a letter from Salem stating the intent and what the help they need for this. There's been several matters brought forth about counties running water lines and how they should not be done in the way that we are doing it, which is understandably the proper way of doing it, because we're not running water lines. We're paying, giving money to Salem to run it. I do like a certain business that is out that way that will be tapping onto this. I believe in the business. I believe in the owners of the business. However, I do not see this as proper appropriation of funds, and I also believe that an economic development matter such as this should have 3 readings and a public hearing for the citizens' input at that amount of money. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.